The roll call, please.
Director Huffer,
Yes.
Director Lang,
Here.
Director Kessler,
Here.
Director Nichols.
Yes.
Director Bus.
Here.
Very good. And looks like from all the attendees from the sports department that maybe you folks have something you're going to share with us this evening. So you have the stage.
Good evening, Chair Huffer and members of the board. Thank you for your time and continued support of our units. We're excited to showcase reservations this evening. We'll present a brief overview of the reservations, which is also a part of the sports unit. You will see how easy it is for the public to get a picnic permit for any of our parks. As you know, I'm Dana Miller. Joining me tonight is my amazing team. There's a reservations coordinator, Andy Morales, sports coordinator, Paul McCarter, administrative clerk, Kylie Landon, and our recreation specialist, Emily Acosta. And we also have Juan Garcia, who we borrowed from the marketing department to assist us with our presentation tonight. In the fiscal year of 2023, reservations brought in approximately $675,000. This revenue was generated from 13,175 permits on our parks, fields, and courts. You may have seen many recent facility additions around the district. Our most popular being the Thousand Oaks Park Picnic Basket and Playground. This opened in 2022 and has already generated 101 permits with a revenue of $8,258. In May, we added a cricket strip at the Pepper Tree Playfields 6 and 7. This was done in partnership with the TO Titans Cricket Club. The most recent addition is the division of Lakeside Pavilion at Conejo Creek North. We added sites A and B, giving us the opportunity to permit 2 smaller parties when Lakeside has not been permitted. This summer, we were approached by 805 Night Marketplace requesting a space to run a nighttime market. It had been run at the Oaks Mall last summer, but it was too big and they didn't want them to come back. We utilized the Conejo Creek South parking lot, which was sitting there empty while the 11 soccer fields were down for refurbishment. This event was very successful and will most likely be back next summer. Our reservations advertising has really been enhanced by our marketing department. We now have reservation banners out in our parks. We'll have a new half-page ad along with the QR code going straight to the reservations page in the 2024 winter brochure. Our reservations process has become much more user-friendly as well. We have a new online application, Woohoo, which is one page, easily accessible through our website. You've all seen the picnic site reservation guide, and I'm sure you will agree that it's fabulous and has all the information anyone would need in planning their picnic or party. Latest and greatest is our office. It's newly refreshed, truly inviting to patrons with a nice lobby space and a more functional area for staff. There are comfortable seating, beautiful desk wraps, and a fun kids corner. The mounted TV shows all of our parks and rental opportunities at a glance. Stop in and take a look the next time you're here during office hours. We're looking forward to offering new rental opportunities at Conejo Creek South. There's a new covered patio area attached to the meeting room. It was built through our partnership with ASO 9. The structure gives ASO patrons a place to eat and sit under the shade. It will be a great opportunity for rentals to groups up to 120 people. Further down the road at Conejo Creek North, we'll be adding a picnic area with a capacity of approximately 100 people. This will be similar to Willow Bend, which is at the north end. We'll be adding this to the south end. Now, as promised, we'll show you just how easy it is to reserve a picnic area. Sit back.
Wow.
And enjoy the final chapter of our presentation.
think I'm forgetting something. Even if you have his help on this one. And Dan's retirement is coming up here, and I was thinking about throwing a party, retirement party, possibly at one of the parks. After that,
Absolutely, that'd be great. Let's talk to Andy Miley about reserving food area.
excellent. Wow, every time I come in here, I'm so impressed with how big this was. You guys did a great job on it. The TV, the wrapping, green chairs, looks really good.
Thanks, we love it too. What's going on?
Emily and I are planning a retirement party again at the end of the year.
But keep it a secret, so you don't want her to find out yet.
We have over 60 locations. How many people is that? I think we're planning for about 150 to 200 people, but we're not quite sure.
Okay, well, let me show you a brand new reservation guide. This will help you find locations for your events. Our new reservation guide makes it easy to view all our picnic sites and amenities. It includes information on capacities, restrooms, shade, electrical outlets, and more.
Based on your crowd of about 200 people, that leaves you in two locations. Conejo Community Center or Conejo Creek North. Did you guys have any activities planned?
Well, Father mentioned wanting to do a soccer game, so which location would be better for that?
I would recommend Lakeside Pavilion over at Creek Park North. It has a large grass area next to it.
Why don't you guys go ahead and check it out?
Right. James, you'll get out.
Right?
On your feature? What was the location?
You said that it had a higher capacity, that it might expect quite a few people. He also mentioned the stage was right over there, so that'll be great for speeches or a live band if we're allowed to have one. But I also noticed it has a great sink over here and plenty of barbecue space, so we can have a barbecue. Fantastic, it'd be great.
Is that Santa?
Leave before she sees us.
Welcome back, guys. How did it go?
So I actually think we decided on a park. I don't actually reserve it.
We now have two different ways to get a reservation. You can still do paper application, submit it, or you can do an online application, sign on our website. Let me show you how. All you have to do is go to our website, click on the blue box, where it says rental permit application, take you directly to our online application. Simply fill out the application like you would in paper and submit it at the end. The great thing about the online application is it's easier to complete unlike the paper application. And that's how you fill out an online application.
Wow, that's super convenient. We'll put that out once we iron out all the details.
What's it going up to?
James, you'll need to.
Yeah, that's good. I want to go too. I want to go to the kitchen.
Any other questions? Here we have it here.
Or a company just needs to have insurance, with that additional insurance.
Can we have a live band?
You can, however, you just have to fill out our amplified sound application. Are we allowed to serve alcohol?
Yes, you can, as long as you're not selling.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate your help. This was a really easy process.
You're very welcome.
And just like that, Paul, Emily, Andy, and Kylie reserved a picnic site using the all-new reservation system. Now, only if they knew they were not so good at keeping secrets.
What, I didn't know?
So this video was co-written by Juan Garcia and totally produced by him as well. So thank you very much, Juan. And we're now available for your questions or comments.
Anybody have questions or comments? Director Nichols?
Can we leave now to go watch the 49ers game? Oh, excellent. That was fantastic. Video was great. And I do appreciate the simplicity of it, because I know, as I even told you folks just before the meeting started, I get questions on, hey, what can we reserve? Where can we reserve it? How do we reserve it? all those questions. And it's nice, not only do you have a one-stop shop, but now even online, it's just so much easier. And we do have a lot of great facilities out there, and it's nice to know, what they have, what they don't have, and even though it may not be part of the reserve package, what folks can use. So yeah, definitely a great way to put it together. And I guess that I was looking at it this morning, kind of making sure I knew what I was saying when I told my friend, what to do. And it was so much easier. So thank you so much. And great video. That was super. Thank you very much.
Yes, Director Cuthworth.
So at Conejo Creek North, is the new picnic area going to be like when you go straight back? And then there's another little parking lot at the back with some grassy area that's going towards Flores? Or is there another place? Where is it going to be?
It's at the south end where the exit is. There's a little, like a turnaround.
It'd be just past the fountain.
Yeah, by the older house, yeah.
Right now, there's
okay,
just
by the Veterans Fountain?
Yeah, the word for it.
right now,
Okay,
there's
so it's
just a
like
barbecue
towards
there.
towards the teen center.
South end, yeah.
Okay, okay, that's not where I was thinking, so that's good to know. And is renting out the Conejo Creek South parking lots, is that something people can do, or was that just a special occasion?
Basically, it's because the fields were closed. That parking lot is usually packed, so it wouldn't be available. But if they come to us in the summer between the end of May and the 1st of August, yes, we would love to facilitate.
But that's not something that's regularly in our book. That's a special
Correct.
situation. Okay,
It's rarely available.
okay. All righty. Thank you. It's an excellent presentation. Lots of fun.
Director Bus?
I have a question. Is the amplified music form also online, or do you have to come in and do the paper one for that?
It's actually part of the application. You take it. Yeah, and then there's another.
Oh, nice.
But everything, yeah, right there.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and I love your guys' new brochure. It's so easy to follow along with. Okay, thank you.
Director Lang?
Yes, thank you, Chair Huffer. Dana, you mentioned in the office updates, the last item, Kids Corner with books, games, and other activities. Was that prompted because kids would come in with their parents, et cetera, and they cause chaos, or?
Yes, when Dee was with sports and she had the other chair,
just right
she
down
decided
the
to bring in the girls old and just in a basket, and it was always great. So we really expanded upon that.
That's really
There's-
neat. That's really neat. And one last question in reference to a comment that was made that this is so much easier, and I can assume not having filled out a paper application, that this is the paper application was more complicated or whatever. But what aspect of that paper application made it more complicated?
It was more pages.
There's a lot of pages, a lot of printing, a lot of attaching it to an email. Some people just didn't know how to attach it. We try to make it as simple as we could, but we still felt that it could be done better. And the way we're doing it now is how you would reserve like a room for a hotel. So it just makes it much easier, much cleaner, much faster. And it just keeps it in line with all of our other stuff that we have to do in the office. It's just it's user friendly, and then helps me a lot too.
Great, and it's
If
so
you went to-
rewarding to see you all. You won't be seeing Dana much longer, but
All the way through the end of the year.
see you all working together for the betterment of your work, improving efficiency, et cetera, but also for our patrons, the community as a whole who looks to make reservations. So great work, great accomplishment, and keep up the good work. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
And I just want to add my thanks to all of you for all the work you've put into this. You might be a little careful though, Dana, about telling us how easy this job is, because now you have that beautiful area with those comfortable couches. Somehow I'm visualizing all of you just sitting back there, letting the computer doing all the work. But I did have one question. When someone is applying, say, for one of the picnic sites, is there some way that they can find out ahead of time whether the date that they want is available, or do they submit an application and you tell them, no, that's not available?
So currently, right now, it's just a submittal of application. in the future, we're hoping to get that going, where they're able to see the calendar and say, hey, we can open this. But at this time, it's just a simple application.
Okay,
Typically, most people will call Andy first and ask about the date. And he tells them to hurry and get their paperwork in. So,
okay.
yes.
I was just hoping that people aren't going to start reserving the nice picnic structure at Conejo Creek South on Saturdays during soccer season.
No, that it'd be
so-
blocked out.
Okay, all right, good. Again, thank you all very much for everything that you do. You know, you've got your fallback position as being world famous actors and actresses, so thank you. And as I always tell people, you're more than welcome to stay for the entire meeting, but don't feel that it's required.
Great job.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on items from the public, and I do have one speaker card from Carol Neerman. If you would go to the podium and make sure you speak into the microphone, Carol.
Your mic on?
No, I'm not sure if the mic is on.
Nope. So good evening. I'm here tonight to continue my presentation on what's going on with the Busy Bees group in the Conejo Park and Recs Conejo Senior Volunteer Program. After a summer break, I think I'm ready to continue with some of these events. I had recapped before about how some of these people in the knitting group are practicing DARVO, which is to deny, deny an attack and reverse victim offendance. So they do something to me and then they come back to tell the management that I did it to them. But usually they embellish it and make it like even bigger. So in this case, I was just having a conversation with somebody at a different table than the people that have been giving me trouble. And all of a sudden, it's just like, I don't really know what happened at the time. It took me a while to figure out, but they said that I called the whole room a bitch. And I thought, well, I don't really do that. But it's just like, so Pam screamed at me that I was a bitch. And then a few days later, I'm being told that I've called the entire room a bitch, which is just kind of like, I mean, I don't even know if it's a problem because like practically every other knitting group is called Stitch and Bitch, but I just don't like want to do that to people. But and I like to concentrate on the behaviors instead of the names. But they were really on the warpath. And before the meeting, and that's one of the reasons that I sat someplace else, they accused me of bullying. And then, that too just really confused me. And then Sharon Yates pulled me out into the hallway and she started screaming at me. Well, first she's told me that she said, well, you're not happy. Well, of course I'm not happy. I'm being bullied. But then she's like screaming at me like over and over again. She's like kind of like right next to my face going, you're not normal. You're not normal. You're not normal. Like probably a dozen times telling me I'm not normal. She says, any normal person would be long gone by now. So let's just walk that back a little bit, because what she's really saying is that the way CRPD, Conejo Senior Volunteer Program, Busy Bees people treat other people is so bad that most people leave. The intent of the behavior by some of these people, I believe, was to get me to leave. And they got very frustrated when I didn't. So, I think that's abuse. Basically, I think the abuse was piled onto me more because I could take it. And because I didn't run out like a lot of the other people did and never come back. And so, well, out of time, so I will continue with what I feel about being normal next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carol. Item 5 out of 4 on our agenda, 5 is approval of the agenda. I will entertain a motion to that effect. Director Cusworth,
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
thank you.
I'll second.
Director Lang, second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Hi.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Item 6, consent calendar, A, approval of minutes, and B, approval of warrants. I will entertain a motion on these items. Director Lang,
Yes, my privilege to recommend approval of item 6, consent calendar, items A and B.
thank you very much.
I'll second it.
Director Bus will second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Carries unanimously. Item 7, deferred matters. I don't believe we have any. Item 8, items for discussion. Again, I don't believe we have any. Item 9, new items. A, budget adjustments for fiscal years 22-23 and 23-24. And I'm guessing we're going directly to Ms. Smith.
Yes, please. Thank you, Chair and Directors. So what I have is our standard year-end budget adjustments we do this time every year. And it's broken down into 3 different sections: prior year adjustments, new additions for the current year, and carryovers into the current year. So I'll start with the prior year adjustments. So that's all the adjustments we're making to the fiscal year that just ended in June. So that's all done. Why the heck am I making you talk about this again? So really, this is not something that's required for us to do. As you already saw from the budget report last year, we had more revenues than expenses. So this isn't something where we need to balance books or anything like that. But this document serves as a documentation of why those work centers that we identified here went over budget from what we had expected when we did that budget. So this is a tool for us when we look back to see trends on different line items. If there's something weird, we go to this document to explain if it's a one-time thing or more, or if it's a trend that we need a budget for in the future. So that's what this practice is about, is identifying why those work centers went over budget and figuring out whether or not that's something we need to apply in the budget going forward. So going through those really quickly, I'll try to keep it quick. I want you to remember that when we set the budget for those budgets, it was in June of 2021, which was mid of COVID, and the market was really down. And so we did very, very conservative estimates. And so the bulk of the prior year adjustments are for rec programs where we really just weren't sure about how people would be coming back to those programs. And Rochelle's team is great about managing, increasing the programming along with the increased revenue. So we have more than enough revenue to cover those expenses, but we wanted to show that those work centers were performing above what we had expected them to in 2021. The other ones were more, there's one other trend was that transportation was fuel costs had gone up. So we actually included that in next year's budget as well to have that increased cost. And then the other ones were kind of one-offs. We had a retirement in the parks department, and I don't expect Andrew to retire, so that's not a trend. And then we had, you might remember last year, there was a one-time spike in your natural gas bill. And so we had that for aquatics. And so those were the one-offs, and then the others were more on the trend, and those were incorporated into the budget for the current year. So that's the prior year adjustments. Any questions on that before I move on to the new stuff?
Director Nichols.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the explanation. I appreciate it. So if I understand correctly, it's not necessarily to move money around to make sure we cover expenses. It's just so that the books are reflecting reality. Is that correct?
Correct. That's correct for our prior year adjustments. Yeah.
Okay. And with what I see here is almost $300,000 in increased programs. Not that it's a dollar for dollar, but there's also a respective increase in program revenue that was realized as a result of these increased programs?
Yes, and it's difficult to say, Rochelle and I were talking about this earlier today. It's difficult to do a one-to-one line item, so we didn't try, because again, it's not a requirement. But yes, there is more than enough revenue for those programs to offset those increased expenses, and her team's great about making sure that's real.
Okay, so even I understand, 2 years ago, which it could have been any 2 years, it could be 2 years from now, you can only forecast what you know from the present. Probably be going through a similar exercise just to kind of keep things clean and tidy. But with that said, as we've already approved the budget. So with this new information, and you said you'd want to make sure that the budgets are correct, will you then use this information to revise and update next year's, in 2 years from now, budgets to, I guess, try and keep it as close to what you expect as possible?
Yes, and so actually the budget we already approved was based on our forecasted actuals in this, so they already do reflect that increase. So we already adjusted for that type of increase.
Okay. Okay, I think that's fine. I think I understand how it all works now. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? Director Lang?
It's actually a comment. You answered my question about the increased fuel costs, et cetera, that, jumped out at me. But also the very last item on page 29, elementary music cultural activities. And I also raised in my mind a question for, our recreation highlights, because they were addressing the music program in that report. Do I recall that the Conejo Valley Unified School District in the foreseeable future is going to take on some of these responsibilities that CRPD has had?
It is possible that the music program in the school district will have funds to reinstate their music programs again. It will affect us. I would assume possibly that the programs that we're doing during school hours would potentially go away because the school district would have their own music programs during the school day. And we would potentially be able to still continue our after-school programs of choir and possibly add band and strings to that after school. But yes, it would impact us. And I hear that it is probably coming sooner than later.
And what percentage of the revenue would that entail?
I don't know the percentage off the top of my head. I can come back with that. But if you'll remember, the music program wasn't in our CRPD budget for many years. It was in ACCV's budget, and it just moved to our budget in the last couple of years. I want to say it's over $100,000, but a number like 300 is sticking in my head too. So let me get you the exact numbers. And like I said, I don't think it will take it all away, but I would expect it would decrease it quite a bit.
Thank you very much, Rochelle.
I guess in follow-up to Director Lang's question on the music programs, is that basically pay as you go, where if the schools take over the music programs, we would reduce expenses, but there would also be a reduction in revenues?
Yeah, you'd see a reduction in our independent contractors because it's all an independent, all of those programs are independent contractors. So you would see a reduction of that line in expenses, and then you would see the reduction in revenues.
Okay. And then Melissa, on the, I understood the various increases. It struck me that the $150,000 increase in culture activities was, basically 2 or 3 times what had been initially budgeted, was just because we had anticipated virtually nothing in culture activities. And once things opened up, that we had a lot more going on.
Yes, and I think the number that we had used in the budget was based on the prior year actual, and the COVID restrictions had dramatically affected it. And so it bounced back a lot faster. And if you know more than you should.
Yeah, the other thing that the cultural unit is really focusing on with Melissa's team and Brianne and Megan is introducing more and more recreational programs for kids to sign up for. So if you look in the guide, there are now like beginning theater classes and other classes to get kids involved in theater, but not necessarily be in a play. So they're doing more of that kind of stuff. So they've increased the number of classes, recreational type classes that they're having.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions on prior year's numbers? If not, now you can go to next year.
Yes. So we have 2 additions that we want to make to the current year budget. You probably are aware of both. The first is increasing the insurance by $82,000. And this was the increase rate that Capremia is aware of. And then the second is increasing the tennis court resurfacing by $35,000 because of some damage that we identified there. And so those are the two additions for the current year. And then the carryovers is the biggest list that we have. And these are literally all of those capital projects in a very heavy capital year. These were the balances as of June 30, 2023. And when we approved the budget, we said, hey, we want to continue with that exact balance over the next year, and we'll come back and report to you what those balances were. And so this is the document that's doing that for you. So it's the same money that was authorized in the last budget, the current balance that the balance was at 630, and us being allowed to do it for another year. And with that, I'm available for any questions.
Okay, any questions from Melissa on 2320? Nope. Very good. Thank you very much, Melissa.
Thanks.
And there was no, let me see, was there?
Yes,
The recommendation.
Okay, so we do have two recommendations from staff. I'll entertain a motion for both of those. Director Nichols,
Yes, I'll recommend staff's recommendations 1 and 2 to approve the adjustments for 22-23 and 23-24.
thank you very much. Director Lang,
yes, I'll second that.
thank you. Any further questions or discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Carries unanimously. 9B, establishment of an ad hoc committee regarding the Quimby fee program and park impact fees.
Yes.
Mr. Friedel.
Yes, thank you, Chair Huffer, members of the board. If the board will recall, at the last meeting 2 weeks ago, we had in the agenda packet a proposed update on the Quimby fee and a second related report of a brand new park impact fee. And both of those items were pulled prior to the agenda, and what I had said to the board then and what we're doing tonight is we're going to slow that down. We're going to give folks time to absorb that, and we're going to create a committee of the board to sort of take a much deeper dive into understanding our situation and maybe what the other communities that have such well, everyone's got the Quimby fee, but those that have park impact fees and what they do and why they do it. So the idea is this ad hoc committee will get together, will try to answer each and every question the committee itself might have to try to have a deep understanding of what we're trying to accomplish, and have any questions come out and staff kind of go through that. And then what we would do is start a process of getting feedback and input from stakeholders, ultimately with the idea of bringing something back that can pass the necessary hurdles to be approved. So there's certainly the legal, but then there's the practical political hurdle of getting it through and approved. So we just kind of want to slow it down and start to build a greater understanding of those that might be involved and affected by it. So with that, my recommendation is that we select 2 board members and create an ad hoc committee and begin that process.
Okay, thank you very much. I've already heard from one board member, Director Lang, who's said don't include his name as a possibility for this ad hoc committee. So I will not consider your name for this ad hoc committee. Of the remaining board members, is there anybody who just absolutely has to be on this committee, or anybody else who wouldn't serve on this committee if their life depended on it?
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I actually have a question for the general manager. If we could ask that before we proceed.
certainly.
Yes. Mr. Friedel, thank you for the explanation. I did have a question though with the recommendation for the ad hoc committee, and I certainly understand with the feedback that we received individually and collectively. But what I was wondering, was there consideration given to just have our revenue committee take this on, since it seems like it's similar as to the types of things that they were exploring? And would that be, again, I don't know if that was a consideration, or maybe should that be a consideration, or do you see the value in having a separate committee?
I mean, generally you create an ad hoc committee for a limited purpose, narrow subject matter. And we created the ad hoc revenue committee, for the, notion of looking for different revenue opportunities. So I think this could actually fit within that existing committee's work, I suppose. So I don't think there's anything problematic about doing that. You know, they've already certainly been heavily involved in the work on revenue, but you know, this is a little different, you know, it's revenue. I mean, it's certainly revenue.
No, I appreciate that. I just didn't know if there was if you thought about it, says, oh, definitely not, we shouldn't do that. But you're just, because it seems like there's a lot of information that committee has absorbed over the last year, 2 years or so, which seems would be germane to this discussion. But I can also see the value of having a separate committee. So I just wanted to get your input on that. Certainly the board can discuss that, but I appreciate the feedback. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And actually, there's another committee that my understanding is it's a standing committee, and that's the Budget and Finance Committee. And that committee, being a standing committee, has to go through the full Brown Act process, but an ad hoc committee does not. I mean, we don't have to publish the agenda. We don't have to go through the whole process that we do for a standing committee.
Yeah, that's right. So the difference between a standing committee versus an ad hoc is a standing committee is the kind of committee that gets the same type of information regularly year after year. They kind of develop a subject area expertise, and then the Brown Act says if you're going to have a standing committee, then that is subject to the Brown Act, just like this meeting, the notice, 72-hour notice. Well, most of those meetings are special meetings, so 24-hour notice, but notice and opportunity to have the public attend. The Brown Act recognizes sometimes there's issues that require a lot more deep involvement and research and you know, opportunity for other people to kind of weigh in and participate. And that's when they recognize like an ad hoc committee is perfectly fine, and it's frankly just a bit easier and more efficient to kind of like get meetings together, get stuff going and meeting and that kind of thing. So my recommendation would be ad hoc, just to keep things moving along quickly.
Okay, Director Lang.
Yes, can a non-considered board member make a comment?
You can make as many comments as you want, George, as long as you limit it to 30 seconds.
No, I understand where Doug's coming from, but I also see a uniqueness. There's enough uniqueness in my mind about this topic that additional eyes, ears, and brains need to, or not need to, it would be advantageous to have that perspective, even though a lot of similarities, but I think there's enough uniqueness in this and importance, and also the interaction with the community. Having a dedicated committee, to me, makes, you know, carries a little more weight.
Okay, I would agree with that, Director Lang, that there is crossover, but the revenue committee, ad hoc revenue committee, has been dealing primarily with the idea of some kind of action that would be put on basically added to property taxes, some type of revenue measure that voters would vote on, as opposed to this proposed ad hoc committee, which is dealing with fees, which are not up to voter approval. So I agree there is a difference in it. I think it does make sense to have a separate ad hoc committee for this purpose. So
no more comments.
Yeah, you say that now.
No, thanks for the feedback. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. I will throw out a suggestion. If somebody really dislikes this suggestion, then that's fine too. But my suggestion is that Director Buss, who's already been hit up on this topic, is probably as familiar with it as any of us. And I know Director Nichols has expressed some interest in the process and in what we're going through here. Director Cusworth, do you have a burning desire to be considered for this ad hoc committee or?
Not burning. No.
It's smoldering.
All right, Director Buss, would you be willing to serve on this ad hoc committee? And
Yes.
Director Nichols?
Certainly.
All right.
What a team, what a team.
It,
Should I make a motion?
I'm gonna have, yeah, go ahead and make a motion.
Okay, so I would like to recommend that Director Buss and Director Nichols serve on an ad hoc committee to review the CRPD's Quimby program and potential park impact fees.
Thank you very much.
I'll
Be-
second, or you can say.
Yeah, I'll be pleased to second that.
You promised you weren't gonna say
Oh, I
anything more. I know, I know. All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
No, no one opposed, so it carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Item 10 on the agenda, reports and announcements. Does anyone have any questions, comments about items 10A through D? Director Lang.
Yes, thank you, Chair Hupper. Under recreation highlights on page 42, we talk about lifeguards and I'll get to the page and get the and certifying. If I get that, if I understand that correctly, it's like a total of 120 between the recertification and the new certification.
Yeah, I don't know the exact number of hours that they put into it, but there's several certifications and they have to stay up to date with their certifications.
I think that's, that number is phenomenal, especially with the other comments in reference to other public agencies, et cetera, not, a lot are offering such a course. So I think
It's a
that's
great training ground for new employees.
yes, yes. Exactly. And I don't know, because it's not been on my mind recently, but COU, isn't that a pretty good source of lifeguards or not?
I think Dee would say and Xavier would say that majority are high schoolers
Okay,
that we get from, and a lot of kids will take our classes, our lifeguard classes, and then we say, hey, come work for us. So you take our classes, then you get a job.
okay. Also on page 43, the rec van. I think it's, in looking at your rec mobile, and how you looking at that handout and looking at the outreach that's being accomplished and bringing it right to the doorstep, literally, some of them. I think that's really great. And at some time in the future, if you can arrange with staff, with the right staff, to have that as a presentation for the board. Because I know that your staff puts in a lot of time and effort, and it's a great interaction, directly to our public. So I would like to sometime in the future have that as a presentation, if it's not too much of an effort. And thirdly, on page 57 and 58, there's a lot of information in those two pages on the program enrollment, looking at those that are actually held, canceled, et cetera. The numbers between, if I understand correctly, the classes offered in this summer 23 compared to, I assume, summer of 22, there's 200, well, not quite 200 difference. Is obviously COVID is no longer an issue, but any reason for that, in my mind, a large number difference?
Well, it was because they were we had canceled. So there was actually 2,500 classes offered this year. And last year there were 1,900 classes offered. But to your point, we had more that were actually canceled. So we tried a lot of new programs this year. And so we had 30% of our classes were canceled. 757 classes were canceled. So we actually offered more than last year, but less went.
Right.
So two of those things are we're trying new classes and we're trying to see if there's new needs out there. And then the other thing is there's a lot of other things being offered now. We're not the only thing in town. During COVID, we were the first back and a lot of folks hadn't reopened. So now, like you said, a lot of people are back, they're doing business. And so
Well,
there's more options for people.
Again, it's a large number. I don't know how it compares to the other two Rec and Park districts and or other, city departments, Rec and Park departments. But I think it's amazing how many classes are actually held and offered to our community. So thank you and your staff. That concludes my questions.
Thank you. Any other comment? Director Nichols?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I was also looking at the summary report. However, not quite as carefully perhaps as our Director Lang was. But Ms. Callis, one thing I was wondering as an administrator, you look at these numbers and rather than little blips on the screen of higher this year, higher last year, lower this year, lower last year, I'm always one for looking at trends. And I usually look, okay, what's the 3-year trend? What's the 5-year trend? What's the 10-year trend? Are we moving up? Are we moving down? Are some sports becoming more popular or less so, or some programs, that way you can get, do a forecast. So I'm saying you as administrator and obviously with your team, how do you use this information? And so when someone says, hey, I think we need to do this program, and you say, well, yeah, but if you look at the way things been going, I don't think so, or yes, absolutely. Can you just give me just a little snapshot as to how you use this and how it impacts what the programming result is for the next year and beyond?
Sure. So as far as the way I use it is exactly what you were saying. I'm looking at trends over the years and are we back up to 2019 yet? 2020, 2021 was really high. Last year was really high. This year it took a little dip. Is that the trend now? Are we going to ever get back to 2019? So kind of looking at that. Now that we have an analyst and when he's able to crunch numbers for me and give me some data, which is awesome. We actually had a short little tiny presentation to the staff because usually this doesn't get pushed out too much because we didn't have the deep dive on the data for staff. But one of the things that he was able to show staff this year on summer enrollment was, for sample, is sports. Usually our sports department is the only group that does sports camps and sports classes and stuff. And some of our other units have decided to try to take on and hire independent contracts and do sports things also. So we saw a decrease in some areas and some classes get canceled and some classes not have as many kids in them. So now we're going, wait a minute, did we saturate our field? So we're starting to look at those types of things, and the centers and the managers will be looking at, do we need to put some things into place so that we're not all trying to do the same thing and everyone is so good at wanting to work really hard and make their revenues and all that good stuff. But we need to also give them peace of mind that you're okay. It's a big district and let's spread it out type of thing. So, and let people be specific in what they're doing. So, yes, it is looked at in those manners.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, no year has ever been really great to where I could say the next year is going to be this.
Oh, yeah, well, of course.
Since I've started.
Yeah, there's always something that tweaks a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think, thank you for that explanation and for the information. And I think, not only for this summer, but I think for our general manager, as we look to the future, whether it be for Quimby fees or revenue measures, one of the questions we're going to be asked is why? Why are we proposing or why are we requesting? And it'll be information like this that's going to be essential to have and say, yes, look, this is where our programs are going. This is where our youth sports are going. This is where our cultural events are going. And if we don't have that data to support our claims, we're just going to be, talking in the wind. So I think it's essential to have that information available and readily available, graphs, whatever it is, so we can point to them and use them. If we're trying to make a point, you need the data to support that. So thank you for the ongoing updates and look forward to the future. Thank you.
Yes, Director Best.
I have a couple questions on the homework clubs. So the one at Conejo Creek, it says 20 people attended. Is that just because it's the beginning of the year? Is it normally about that amount or is it more? I would assume more.
It depends. It is the beginning of the school year, so Conejo Creek usually sees more. So it could be that they're just getting started at this point. So, but yeah, it's not unrealistic to be that low too.
Oh, okay.
You have to remember that there's the ELOP programs that are going on school campuses now, and kids are getting free after school programming, educational enrichment and stuff at their school sites. So it extends the school day. Parents don't have to pick up as early and stuff like that. So those programs have impacted our safe passage programs.
Oh, okay. So like Madronia, which is one of the ones that bus.
There's 3 or 4 schools that go into Conejo Creek, and all of those schools are offering the ELOP program, which is great and fantastic.
Yeah, that is great. Because when I was on school site council for Madronia, they didn't have the money to have the bus for the kids.
Well, the kids stay at school.
Yeah,
and then
they didn't
parents
have
pick up
so they were saying that
later.
a lot of the parents couldn't pick up, and that's why then they needed a second bus.
Yeah, I don't know if they've got a second bus or not.
So that's
but
interesting.
Yeah. To where Acacia, we are assisting with their ELOP program. So it's a partnership with the school and us. And so we have about 50 kids in that program, but it's because of ELOP also. So we serve all the kids that are identified for that school for the ELOP program.
And those
which
are the kids
include
that used
our
to be.
kids. Yeah.
Okay.
Which include the safe passage kids.
That makes sense too, because that's more of a walking distance for that school.
Yeah.
Versus Madronia, the kids are bused. And so it's parking. So then the shadow apartments, how many kids normally is that a very similar program?
So that's a really new program. This might be the 2nd or 3rd year that we started it with Adelante, and Safe Passage helped us for the first couple of years, and it's very, very small. But we are committed to continuing to be there and trying to grow it and be there for the kids after school. So the Shadows apartment allows us to use their little community room because of the relationship they have with Adelante.
Right.
And so we use it, and then we invite other people that live within walking distance can also participate in the program. So it's actually a little bit bigger this year right now, but they only do a couple days a week. And then they do outreach is doing teen programs at all 3 of the areas too.
So for like Conejo Elementary, where are those kids doing a homework?
They can walk, well, I
Where's
would bet they have an ELOP program.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So that would be where they would be doing it, but
We're not doing anything with them though.
Not at that location. The school district runs their ELOP programs.
Yeah.
And we just help with the Acacia one. And then, but they can, any of the kids that live in that area around Shadows apartment can participate in the program.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, because these are the Glenwood kids then, I would assume, right? Cool. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I love these programs. I'm really happy that we participate in these. Thank you so much.
Any other comments? You already have one, you'll get a chance to get them, but we're going to go Director Cusworth first.
Absolutely.
Okay, so a couple of things. When I was looking at the enrollment and I was looking at the 3-year comparison, it seemed like it wasn't that drastic. Like sometimes it was a few hundred more, sometimes a few hundred less. So I didn't see any trends that were hugely disturbing. So I guess it was just a matter of how many signed up that year. But I was also wondering, on all of the canceled classes that you have, are those usually put on by independent contractors, or those employee classes, or is it a mix of both?
It's a mix of both, with a majority of being independent contractors. So when James did the roll up, he really looked at independent contractors, and like we had one business that offered over 20 classes and only 14 went. So, but last year they offered 30 classes and 20 went. So it's kind of, we're trying to look at that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, overall, the staff is doing a really great job trying to introduce new different things, trying to work with other independent contractors or businesses in the community that want to offer programs through us and use our space. So we'll partner with most people if they want to do something and we feel that it would be beneficial to the community. And if it doesn't go, it doesn't go.
And I've
So-
noticed some independent contractors use their own space. Is that true?
Some do. So one that's coming to the top of my head, I don't know if we actually had any classes with them this year, but they had, we've done business with Sports Academy before. And so some independent contractors, if they have their own space that they use, our percentage is different. So we have a recreation memo that gives a guideline when we're signing contracts with independent contractors, if they use our space, if they use their space, there's 3 different rules that put them in at different percentages with us.
And then the Shadows apartments, are those the apartments that are on Wilbur Road? Where
Yes.
are they?
Marissa is saying, I just know they're across
Hey.
the street on the left. If you're going
Oh.
up towards Conejo.
You're thinking of the right one.
Okay. So is that run by staff employees or volunteers? Do you know?
No, staff employees. America, her staff run that program.
Okay.
So
And the ELAP program, do you know if that's run by volunteers or school
the
employees?
ELAP is run by school employees.
Okay.
So they have teachers that stay, this is my understanding, teachers that stay and are contracted with them, or employees of the district that stay and do like educational homework enhancement for the first hour. And then there's other things that they do. This year, last year, they were able to participate in some of our after school programs on campuses, but I do not believe we're doing that this year for them.
And then where does Safe Passage fit into all of this?
So, Safe Passage has evolved over the years. So at Conejo Creek, it looks very different. Safe Passage kids from that area still come to those events, and that's specific to that area. At 850 Warwick, as you know, it's changed over the years because we're not at the apartment complex anymore. Then we were at Acacia, and now we're combined with ELOP. So we help with that program, but then we do Fun Fridays at our community center, which is supported through Play Conejo. Safe Passage and Adelante help us with the Shadows apartments. Safe Passage runs and helps, actually, I think pays for 100% of the swim program that we do with them. So it's just different. It's kind of different, and it's morphing as the needs of the community change and as other organizations are able to assist more, if that makes sense.
I guess my main question is Safe Passage working in providing volunteers for homework clubs, or is that all taken care of pretty much by the after school programs? And then you're just at the Shadows apartment and a little bit at the apartments, I guess they're Hillcrest.
So
Conejo Creek,
Safe
what are they
Passage
called?
has a partnership with CLU. We have, I believe, 4 students that are working for Safe Passage, but they do their hours with us. So they would be considered volunteers for us, but they're getting paid by the school, I think, through Safe Passage. We do not have volunteers from Safe Passage working in our after school programs.
Okay.
It is all our staff. Some of the programs even are a mix. Some of the Safe Passage programs, we pay for staff, or some of them Safe Passage pays for. So there's a mix of who pays for what too. And Tim Dewar is our mastermind that keeps track of all that and bills Safe Passage for the stuff that they say they'll pay for. But all of the programs, our staff are running the programs like after school.
So how many of our staff would you say just off the top of your head are involved in those programs?
I'd say there's more than 10 staff involved at the 3 locations and could be more. It just depends on the ratio of kids. On top of the fact that outreach also helps out with the teen programs too. Even though Safe Passage isn't specific on teens, they do help with some of that.
Okay.
So.
Okay, thank
And then
you.
when we do field study trips, that's different. So when there's field study trips, there's staff and there's volunteers and there's sheriff's department and there's teachers.
Yeah.
The swimming, obviously all the swimming is our staff, but there is a volunteer, Renee, that is with Safe Passage, and she's at all of those swimming events and she helps with the parents and stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Director Nichols?
Yes, I just wanted to know what the acronym ELOP stands for.
Language. And that's program. Yeah, I was like English language, English learners. Expanded learning opportunities.
That sounds like it, yeah. Expanded learning opportunity programs.
Thank you.
Let's ask Google.
I think Aline just did. Thank you, Aline.
Okay, just one more question, Rochelle, on the enrollment summary. I think it's great that you guys are trying all these new programs, and certainly understandable, some work, some don't. For the programs that are canceled, is there any substantial cost to the district for, other than, advertising the fact that a class is going to be held? Is there any substantial cost, supplies we bought or I mean, we have permanent staff, but I guess the bottom line, does it cost us a lot or not a lot to cancel classes?
It's some time for the staff. They had conversations, they did paperwork, they hired an independent contractor if they didn't already have classes with us. So there's some staff time. It goes into our marketing for the program guide. So it might take up, a little bit of space depending on, unless it's 20 classes or something. And then we reserve space for them. So obviously if we're reserving space for that class and the class doesn't go, then the space is vacant after that. So, but that's really it. I think the opportunity to have people in the class outweighs the not doing it. I think where we need to watch and pay a little more attention is how many classes do we offer? And I believe I've mentioned it. We are going to be doing something different with our program guide. And so I think as we roll this out and we start looking at age groups in our program guide instead of center-based, we're going to start being able to see, oh, there's 15 yoga classes, because it's all in one page. And oh, there's 2 Tai Chi classes, and wow, they always sell out and there's a waiting list. So there's going to be some more things that I think are going to be a little easier to identify when we organize it a little bit differently.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Yes.
All right. So are you saying the program guide's not going to be organized by center anymore? You're going to do it a little differently?
Correct.
Okay.
The plan is it will be by ages in the winter guide. We're giving it a try to see what it is. Most other organizations that do this in California really do it by age. We are just have so many locations that it's been a really hard conversation and transition, but we're going to kind of rip the Band-Aid off and give it a try. Our marketing department has done a great job, and you guys will see next month. They've gone out to the community. They've asked people. We've done surveys, not always with a lot of response, but those that have responded have said that, they'd like to be able to find classes by age. So we're looking at like a 0 to 5 section, a 5 to 12 section, a teen section, an adult 18 plus section, and then a senior 50 and older section.
Which you do, but you do it within the boundaries of the center.
No, we really don't. Well, kinda.
Because
There's like
you'll have, like, Conejo
preschool or mommy and
Community
me.
Center, and
Yeah.
then you have everything,
Yep.
and then you'll have Thousand
Mhm.
Oaks Center, and then you have all the ages. So I
Mhm.
guess this is so people might get outside of just going to their same center all the time.
Well, it would be different. I'm,
It'll be
I'm
interesting
50
to see.
something. I will go to one section of the book and I will be able to see yoga is at Orchard, Conejo, Hillcrest Center for the Arts, which time works best for me instead of going, okay, which section do I go in? I got to look for yoga in Orchard and I got to look for yoga
Right.
in Conejo. So it may work. It may not work. Maybe a huge flop. I'm hopeful it's not, but
Well,
we're
it's
gonna
nice
give
to
it a
out
try.
New things. I mean, it's been the other way for so long.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see. But I was also thinking, once he mentioned program guide, have you had any complaints about your shortened explanations in the program guide? Because people have to kind of go online to get the bigger explanations now. don't
It
they?
is, I have heard from the field that the staff say that people do complain about it. The challenge is the more words you put in the guide, the more pages it costs.
No, I understand.
So
I was
our
just
pages
wondering.
are already at over 40 pages a book, 5 times a year, printing and whatnot. So with the way we're going in our world, trying to, give them the general gist of something and then be able to go online and find out more information is what I'm hopeful people will do.
No, it's what I thought you were doing. And I was just thinking, did anybody notice?
Yeah.
It's a good thing to do. I'm not
Yeah.
saying it's not a good
Yeah.
thing to do. I was just wondering if people noticed that
Yeah.
or if it was
This,
like not a
the
problem.
reports from the staff is that the community has noticed. I have received no direct email complaints, or we obviously aren't seeing a lack of signups, I don't believe, from that, but that is something we'll keep an eye on too. In my dream world, you guys, I'd probably go all digital and send a postcard out and save over $100,000 a year on printing and postage. But I'm not going to do that. I'll do this little
Well,
change
I'm-
first.
Maybe in the future,
Maybe.
as people get more,
Savvy.
accustomed to just doing
Yeah.
everything digitally.
Yeah. I think
Okay.
there's a place for the program guide,
Yeah.
but I don't know that it is the look that we currently have.
All right, thank you very much. I guess with a short agenda, we board had all this extra energy for reports and announcements. You know, just right over it. So moving on to 11 department reports. I understand that Mr. Mooney has kid duty tonight. So are you filling in for him?
Yeah, I'll cover a couple things just under my GM one,
Okay.
if that's okay.
We've already beat up on recreation. Do you have anything else you wanted to add or?
I do. Is that okay?
Okay, go for it.
Okay, so I would like you to know that I have met with our speaker today. I met with her a couple months ago. And she gave me some information and I investigated that information and I spoke with all the people that she referred me to speaking to. And I have followed up with her with that information. She did make some specific requests of me, which after my investigation, I found that I would not be doing those requests. So I have let her know that. And they did let me know that they would continue to come to meetings. So I just wanted you to know that staff has addressed her concerns and that's where I'm at with that. I also want to let you know our pool and our aquatics, you'll in some of our numbers probably start seeing some different things and you might start hearing a buzz in the community. During COVID, you'll recall that we had access to the school CLU's Samuel Pool. And that allowed us to have lap swimmers. And because of COVID, we started a whole registration system with lap swimming and you just got your lane and nobody else was in it. And times are changing and the school's using their pool now. So we don't have as much space and maybe not use it at all or very little amount of time. And there's going to come a point where people are going to have to share lap lanes again. So there may be some stuff that you hear. So I think it's just, and we're seeing it in several programs, but specifically our Global Center and then now aquatics, that things that happened during the time of COVID, people got really used to it and now they expect it. And the reality is it can't stay that way. So the other thing that happened was swimming lessons. You had to take private lessons or semi-private with your family member. And group lessons kind of went away for a year or two. Well, now we don't have the space. We need to be doing the group lessons. And we never used to do semi-private lessons, and you paid extra for private lessons. So people want private lessons still. And so you see a lot of wait list numbers, and that's a lot of it is because of aquatics. So just to be aware of that. And then you have in your file this, which I know you haven't looked at yet, but this is every session we do a survey. We've been doing this for years now. James just gets better and better at it though. But I just wanted to point out a couple of things. The blue box on the side that says summer 2023, this number actually here is actually for all 478 people that responded to the survey. But this side of the page is for the summer survey only, which was 67 people responded to the summer day camp questions. And then on the other side, there's the summer program. So anything that wasn't camp, they answered on this side. But the numbers over here, as far as the concerts and Touch a Truck and the movies, the special events, those numbers are based off of the 478. So if that's not totally confusing for you. And with that, I'm available for questions.
Does anybody have additional questions for Rochelle? No? All right. Then we will move along to Ms. Smith, Management Services.
Thank you. I'll keep it brief. We are moving forward with our class and comp. Our consultants have provided draft job descriptions and draft classification changes, and those have gone out to staff, and they have 2 weeks to respond and request reconsideration if they want to, and then we'll be able to finalize the recommendations with the consultant and then probably bring it to you in a closed session coming up. So wanted to give you the update on that. And speaking of class and comp and retaining employees, this is Brandon's last meeting with us. But thank you, Brandon. So he's going to be leaving us. His last day is tomorrow, right? Tomorrow. Okay. So say goodbye. We will miss you. Thank you.
Bye.
And with that, I'm available for questions.
Do we have any questions for Ms. Smith? No, then we will combine General Manager and Parks and Recreation.
Sure.
Parks.
So thank you, Chair Huffer, members of the board. And again, congrats. And thank you, Brandon, for your service here. But when you got other opportunity, go for it. So congrats. I wanted to compliment Rochelle. She gets, this was great. A shorter meeting, she gets a little more attention, but I do, looking at the enrollment report, that is all like her and her team, and kind of knowing years ago that, she wanted to start to have a really ability to look at long-term trends by using the computer writing program to suck the right information out of the computers and stuff. So she created those reports and is using them to kind of keep a good eye on what the enrollment looks like. So thank you, Rochelle, for that good work and getting those together. I think something Andrew probably would have talked about and been really proud about is they did put together a package for that $10 million grant. So it took a lot of our new park planners time, Rebecca's and Andrew's time. So they put together quite a hefty package. When they get their breath, they did it this week, so they submitted it. So I'll try to get you guys a chance to see what we submitted, but really appreciate all their hard work on getting that grant in. Now it's fingers crossed. We'll see what happens. And then this is kind of like a legislative update and just kind of a couple things like, so if you remember, we took a position expressing our concern with the California Business Roundtable proposal that would have really tied the hands of both local and state government on kind of revenue measures, taxes, and even fees. And there would have been all sorts of problematic things that I think were in that initiative that meant well, but could have created a lot of havoc and would have certainly had a lot of litigation involved. Like we know for sure we would have almost had certainly to go to a full cost allocation program and hire more accountants and just count beans more than actually deliver service. So, you know, so we had some concerns. And so ACA 13 is something the state legislators put together to kind of be a response to that. So that actually got through the legislation. And what that does is say, hey, if anybody in the future is going to propose a supermajority requirement in their legislation, then that proposal itself will have to pass by that supermajority requirement. So for instance, the most famous one everybody's aware of is Prop 13 requires 2/3 vote to raise property taxes. This ACA 13 that has passed, if it were around and when Prop 13 passed, it would have required Prop 13 to then also pass by 2/3 vote. So it's just something that's now going to be on the landscape. The voters will have to decide whether they want to, you know, vote for that or the California Business Roundtable one or how that's going to go. But there's going to probably be a lot of heavy interest in the November 24 election on those two kind of related things. And then on top of that, what happened with ACA 1 was, I will say, having done this job for a while, I got sort of jaded because I've seen a version of ACA 1 proposed every single legislative cycle for the last 20 years, like literally ever since the school district got the opportunity to have a 55% vote for capital. Some legislator has said, hey, you know, that should be for libraries in my district or fire districts in my district or school parks in my district. So it's a version of that has been literally 20 years. And this year it got through. So now the voters this year are going to have the opportunity to decide whether they want to lower the threshold for raising taxes down to 55% for infrastructure, only for capital infrastructure. So it's kind of like everybody that does capital infrastructure government would have the opportunity to kind of do what the schools do with school bonds. That will create, and we are going to have the ad hoc revenue measure committee talk, and I'm sure those things will weigh heavily in our discussions as to what maybe CRPD's best path forward may or may not be. But that November will probably change the playing field. It might. I have no idea how the voters will vote, but
November 24.
Not until November 24. So that those are big deals that are going to be on the November 24 ballot. So I'm sure we'll hear lots and lots about them in the months and years ahead. But I just kind of wanted to give you kind of that heads up that that's what's happened. And other than that, we still have plenty of committee work and committees kind of getting together to meet. So I think we have that Art and Education Committee coming up, the Revenue Committee coming up, and now we will be having our Quimby Park Impact Fee Committee. So still plenty of work the board's doing and things are moving forward. With that, I'm available for questions.
I have questions for the general manager. No, okay. We'll move along to director's reports and follow-up reports. I think I started this way last time. So George, I'm going to start with you this time.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair Hupper. I've just got two items. I did share with the board the MRCA $1.2 million check presentation coming up next week. And again, I'd like to invite you and or any other senior staff to join me. As you know, we are very involved, part of the MRCA. And I think the more you know about it, seeing some of the items or facilities, et cetera, some of our involvement firsthand would only enhance your knowledge of the MRCA and how much it accomplishes. So again, throwing out an invitation if you're available. It's at Elephant Hill. The state funds $1.2 million. I think the source was vehicle registration.
Yes, it's the environmental license plate fund.
Okay. So anyway, if you're so inclined to want to spend a couple hours, it is in Northeast LA. Just let me know and we'll do a carpool or whatever. Oh, and then the other thing is a personal big thank you from Judy and me. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Bess.
I don't think I have anything to report except for having meetings and lunches with community stakeholders, which has been highly entertaining. That's all I have.
Oh, so glad you've had excitement. Director Cussworth.
I've been to a couple of ad hoc committees, I believe. I'm not really remembering a whole lot at all of what I've done in the last couple of weeks. I should write it down before I come. But I do want to sort of advertise at the Stagecoach Inn. They are doing their annual Voices of Old Conejo, and it's going to be very fun this year because they're going to be talking about movies that were filmed here, which is always a popular, topic. So if any of you aren't busy the next 2 weekends, maybe stop by and give it a look at. And I guess that's about it.
Okay.
Yes.
Your presentation?
No, that wasn't that. I
We'll
did,
still talk about it.
yeah, I did do a presentation, but that's not my presentation. That wasn't. This is one that's coming up on Saturday and Sunday at the Stagecoach Inn called Voices of Old Conejo. And so it's like a play.
They've done it for years and years.
Yeah,
You
they've
walk
been doing
through
it
the
for like-
various sites, and at least one or a couple of years, Wyatt was one of the actors for this
Yeah.
thing.
Right, Mike Berger used to be very involved, board member. But no, I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. Didn't you make a presentation at the library?
We'll tell you about it, George. We'll tell you about it.
Oh,
Because a couple of us were there.
Oh.
Director Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Quick update, see, on the 12th, I was at the Master Plan, Conejo Creek Master Plan Ad Hoc Committee. On the 13th, I had a Costco Board of Directors meeting. See, on the 14th, I attended the Water Association reception. On the 19th, I had a California Rec and Park Finance Committee and Bylaw Committee meetings. And then on the 20th, had a pickleball ad hoc committee. And then on the 12th, I did not attend it, but the Board of Supervisors had a cast of people to appoint, and I was appointed to the board for the Community Assistance of Ventura County, which is an organization to help elevate people out of poverty. It's a countywide organization, has a board of 15 people on it, 5 of which are appointed by one from each supervisor. And they are active in, food pantry and homeless outreach, helping people to apply for grants for electricity and gas, natural gas assistance. And you'll even see in this month's edition of the Global Gazette, they have an advertisement to help families in that same outreach. So I'm looking forward to trying to bridge that gap, working between the Park District and that organization. I've only at this point just attended an orientation, but we'll be attending my first board meeting next month. So I'm looking forward to that.
what's that called again?
Community Assistance of Ventura County. It's a nonprofit corporation. Yeah.
More meetings, huh?
You just can't get enough of them.
It's adding up. It's all good.
Okay. That it?
Thank you. Yes.
All right. Well, Director Nichols isn't going to say anything about it, so I'll start off with
Yes.
the two of us were at Nellie's presentation on Sunday. And it was I mean, I've been around the Conejo Valley for what, 40 years, and I thought I knew most of everything, but there's a great history of the Conejo Valley. Nellie did a great job. I'm forgetting the name of the gentleman who.
Bill Ackerman.
Bill Ackerman. He came in as 4 or 5 different characters as part of Nellie's presentation. And kudos, because the two of you did a really great job. And
It was
had a
great.
packed house. I mean,
Yeah.
the room there was, I don't think there were any empty seats. In fact, I think they were bringing in some extra chairs for people to get in. So it was really good. It was really
Entertaining
good.
and
Jim was there
educational.
too, so
It was very nice.
yeah.
I appreciated the support. Thanks.
Other things. I was the large event committee with Doug. I met with Jim earlier that same day, and I can't honestly remember why we met, but 13th, we had a Casca board meeting that was relatively quick. I also, along with several folks, was at the Association of Water Agencies event over at the Reagan Library. I did take advantage of the discount tickets for the Auschwitz exhibit, which was really well done, but pretty intense. But I'm glad I had an opportunity to see that. It was a good exhibit. So we went to Nellie's presentation and then the pickleball ad hoc committee. And are we coming to the board with anything on that, or?
No, I think from that, the 3 areas, staff is just gonna go out to those 3 areas, get some feedback on this double striping, and then come back to the full board with okay, what do you want to do? We had those 3 areas. We had a plan and some community meetings. Here's where we're at.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so basically what's happening with the pickleball is going to have 4 temporary courts over at drawing a blank.
Well, we're gonna have community meetings expressing interest in doing the double striping at Tranfo, Estella, and Oakbrook,
Yeah.
which were the top 3 from the two of the top 3 from the
Right.
study, the big report.
So anyway,
Yeah.
staff is going to get feedback on that, do it, I think, for 6 months and get feedback and go from there. So but we're not going to be able to shrink the waiting list very much for a while on the pickleball classes. So, oh well. That's all I have. Item 12 on the agenda, request for status reports. Does anybody have any requests for status reports or subsequent agendas? No. Item 13, I forgot to ask early in the meeting. Do we have anybody waiting in the public to speak? No. Okay. I didn't miss anybody early, I hope. Oh, good. I'm relieved. Do we have any need for a closed session?
No, we do not.
Yay. All right. With that, I will adjourn.